Thank you for watching Sapphire Music Monday. I hope you're enjoying these interviews with our wonderful musicians. Today I'm going to turn the table around where I share you an interview I participated as a guest on an Instagram live show called Check the Gate with Maestro Sascha Goetzel. Maestro Goetzel is a celebrated Austrian conductor who conducts around the world and a musician who I admire. We explore the topic of the life of the conductor, the role of the music director in a community, and my vision for the Savannah Philharmonic. We released our remote performance of Georgia on My Mind, which aired on WTOC and is available on all of our social media platforms. I hope you had a chance to hear and watch our wonderful performance. On the Facebook Live and YouTube Live platform, I'm thinking of a new project where I invite the Savannah Philharmonic family and an opportunity for you to ask questions live. Still thinking about that, but more on that soon. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share these videos. And I highly encourage you to comment on the video and let us know what you think about these interviews. The more engagements that we have on our social media, the more visibility we gain around the world. Your enthusiasm and support is crucial for the future of the Savannah Philharmonic, so let's write history together. Enjoy this interview, and thank you for watching.
So, hello, welcome everybody. This is Keitaro Harada, who wants to be called K, as I understand. Is this correct?
Yes, yeah. Much easier and shorter.
Yes, and he is the music director of the Savannah Philharmonic, and we are very happy to welcome him here at Check the Gate, the offstage episode, where we talk about everything which is connected to things outside of the stage. Okay, how are you? First of all, you're in Tokyo, I think, if I understood right.
Yes, I'm doing well. It is 11 p.m. in Tokyo right now, and just quarantining in Japan. My wife and I live both in Japan and the U.S. in Savannah. So unfortunately, like many orchestras around the world, the season had been canceled, and there were a couple of projects still in Japan that were still going on once, even though the COVID-19 had hit. So I've been here and doing some creative projects. And how are you? And you're in Vienna?
Yes, I'm in Vienna, and we have the same situation, I think, globally. So there is not much difference. Just in the northern country of Europe, they're having a little bit better situation. So they come back on stages in small bits and bytes. But tell me, who is this little fellow here on your lap?
His name is Shiro.
Shiro!
Wow. Shiro means white in Japanese. The grandpa's little puppy, and he was quietly sleeping, but when I was getting ready for this Instagram live, he woke up. So I thought
how old is
hi. He's 12, becoming 13 next month.
He's already a real gentleman, right?
Yes, he's an old man, but very kind, and just watches me study often and doesn't make any opinions.
Wow, he's a beautiful gentleman. Wow,
and
Shiro,
you have a dog.
nice
You have a dog too, right?
Yeah, we have a dog too. Its name is not so beautiful in terms of colors because his name is Lucifer.
Wow.
Yes, it's named after the star before he was thrown down into hell, which is actually the light bringer. So it's come from Luce. He's the light bringer. So he's our little light bringer, but he's in Italy. We could not bring him in the last moment back here to Vienna, and we cannot go to Italy for the lockdown of the countries in Europe. But as soon as we are allowed to go, we will bring him back. Okay, so let's get inside here. Huh? So
all right.
I know that, Kay, you just became a music director around 1 year ago, and I know you're a very honorable person in terms of thinking about your responsibility for the community, which means that you really, as a music director, you feel that there is actually this responsibility, which comes, and I want to say this to everybody because there are people watching around the world, this is coming from a very American, US approach for a music director. In Europe, the art starts completely different. The art should have always a diversity, is like a counterpoint sometimes to society. So it's not really community serving in the old days. But in the US, it always, from the symphonic orchestras to the operas to the small theater ensembles, it always has been connected to the community. So I want to ask you, because I know you've done a lot of effort to put into this in the program. Tell us about the projects you have with the Savannah Philharmonic. What have you, planned from the most avant-garde to the most contemporary, maybe even experimental, to serve your wonderful community? Because Savannah, we know, is one of the most beautiful environmental city in the US, with the nature and the people who live there really having a melting pot there.
Mm-hmm. So Savannah is definitely a vibrant city, as you've mentioned. We have millions of visitors annually who visit Savannah to see its beautiful nature. The culture, the history of Savannah is so fascinating, which has a big landmark in the United States. And part of the programming process is very much dependent on that. We are a per service orchestra. We do about 8 subscription concerts, 2 to 3 pops, 1 to 2 education, and several run-out concerts. Musicians of the orchestra, some of them live in Savannah, but majority come from the outskirts of Savannah, out in Georgia, out neighboring states like South Carolina, Florida, and even from New York too. And with this, as you mentioned earlier, the orchestras in the United States is very much dependent and focused on community engagement, and then the relationship between the music director, the audience, the musicians, and our wonderful donors and our board. So probably as a music director, one of the primary focus being in the US, working with the United States Orchestra, and I've done assistant conducting with several orchestras like Cincinnati Symphony, where I had the position prior to Savannah, is the importance of spending a quality time with our patrons and our donors. And of course, we do get some state funding, we do get some city funding and grants, but most importantly, we have an orchestra because of the wonderful support of individuals, mainly individuals, and some corporate sponsorship. So when it comes to programming, it has a lot of focus needs to be about how to keep engagement from the donor base and doing programs that they would like. At the same time, how, as a music director, we develop the orchestra and create the orchestra sound and do innovative programming that really balances the two. And as far as programming, for the next season, we have programmed orchestral standards such as Shostakovich 5, but we also, my focus primarily is trying to make each concert Savannah specific, highlighting something that is really only able to do with this city. So in our season premiere, we have a world premiere, 2 world premieres by a Savannah composer, Robin Beauchamp. When we do our Messiah, our singers who have international careers around the world, but they make their home in the state of Georgia or in the city of Savannah. And then in addition to like and also like in any orchestra, having a soloist from our orchestra do a concerto. We have a violinist doing Sibelius, a clarinetist doing a Weber concerto. And also trying to make sure that we are bringing to the community really high level guest artists and artistic quality. So we have pianists like Audition Pratt or Stephen Huff is coming to play 2 Saint-Saëns concerto and chamber music with our musician. So it's a fine balance of trying to, make sure that as you know, the musicians have to be really excited about it, right? We can't keep repeating the same program just because the donors or the patrons want. So it's a really exciting exercise. I've been fortunate, I would say, that coming from Cincinnati, where it was such an avant-garde place, where it was very innovative and lots of commissions in a very balanced way, where they balance the classics but also honor and really bring forward the composers of today. With that knowledge and with that experience and that relationship with those composers, I want to do something similar, specific, but very specific to Savannah.
Oh, beautiful. So this is beautiful what you said, because many people also watching now, I'm sure they are not aware that actually becoming a music director is a little bit different than just waving your hands on stage in a certain way so the orchestra plays well. And also it's a little different to just develop a good quality in the orchestra sound. Actually, it also is to take responsibility of your community on stage, off stage, all the donors, all the board members, and really make them feel that actually the orchestra becomes the center of a community for communication, right? So this is, you said it very beautiful. I'm very happy to hear it also, that you take this responsibility so beautifully. So bravo to you, bravo to Savannah. Also, I'm sure they will have a wonderful time together. Now let's come back a little bit to you. So how did you decide in first place to become a conductor? Who were the people who were giving you this inspiration? And was there a specific moment you remember where you said, oh my God, this is what I want to do in life?
I was born and raised in Tokyo, and I went to the US to Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan. And my aspiration in life was to become a Broadway musical orchestra pit musician. I'm a woodwind doubler. So that's what I wanted to do, and tour playing musicals. I love musical. That was my introduction to music. But then when I was playing in the ensembles at Interlochen, one of the conductor was Frederick Fennell, one of the wind ensemble conductors. And he was towards the end of his life, and just the way he communicated music, it wasn't the typical, 1, 2, 3, 4, but there was something that was just so genuine that music actually came from his heart. And that was something that I couldn't describe it in words, but I knew that it was something that I was very attracted to. And when I approached him that I wanted to do conducting, he took me on, and that's how I got started. A lot of the inspirations and the motivation to become a conductor came from just watching wonderful maestros from the past and the present. I started conducting around 17, 18 years old. That's when I got, caught the bug of the conducting. And I really loved the way conductors like Valery Gergiev, Yuri Termikhanov, Simeon Bychkov, the Russian school of conducting. And so I took a lot of workshops in St. Petersburg and Moscow just to learn and how that kind of conducting is done. And then while still studying in the US, I had opportunities to, work with wonderful maestri like Lauren Mazel to hone my conducting. But the inspiration and also the motivation to become a conductor came very early, and it's just a wonderful profession. And it's a very humble profession too, because we don't make any sound physically. How did you become a conductor?
I always, as a boy, I was putting a chair in the middle of people to music and just started to conduct. So I was 2 years old, actually. That's what my parents tell me. So for some reason, there was always a connection. I just became, just is the wrong word, but I became an orchestra musician because my parents told me you have to learn one instrument on a professional level so you can really do the job well. But this, in my case, it's a really, I don't even know why I became a conductor. It had always been somewhere there. There was no other way. It's a little bit like this. But let me ask you something in this perspective. So the last 20 years, when you go back, you told about the influence of the Russian culture. So I know you were born in Japan, so you experienced this lifestyle, this culture. I know you have been now educated, partly at least, and live. You have also a wife now who is living in the US. How do you feel the different lifestyle and the approach from a spiritual point of view to your art in this moment? So you look back 20 years, you see Japan, you see your educational process, so partly Russia, partly America. Now you're a music director yourself after being assistant. So how much of all these cultures are reflected now in your way to make art?
I think I'm a crockpot in the most positive way. And I really feel very lucky that I was born in Tokyo, in Japan, surrounded by, countless people. You come to Japan often, so you know how much of an organized chaos Japan is. But you also know, you also know you also know that the classical music scene in Japan is just like no other. There are so many professional orchestras just in Tokyo that play at a high quality level, really wonderful concert halls and the music making. So growing up with that, it's interesting, you when you grow up in an island where there's so much love for the classical music, and it's Japan, it's Asia, which seems 180 degrees away from classical music, but this country loves it. And then for me to come abroad to US to study, getting the influences in Russia and then working in the US, I feel that I'm very unbiased. I feel that I am I think the best way to say is I don't sense my nationality. Um, I'm very comfortable being Japanese. I'm very comfortable, even though I'm not American, but I'm very comfortable saying that I'm American in many ways. And I think it's for the positive of it. So some of the things, in the past 20 years of doing this, I I'm starting to think now, what is my identity? What can I really bring forward to the classical music scene as a conductor who has trained around the globe? And I think want to focus is trying to champion as many classical Japanese composers that are still unknown. There is not that much opportunity, and I feel that if someone like me doesn't do it, then all these great compositions that are being performed in Japan, or little premieres scattered throughout the world, someone needs to champion it. And I feel that with the American composers, there are tons of American conductors that are championing. Same with the European conductors and their composers. So I think now that I'm at a stage where I am conducting at a high level, I feel that it is my responsibility to give back to Japan, where I'm from, to the composers. And that's sort of the energy focus that I'm starting to think of.
Well, it's beautiful. One of my teachers, most influential probably, has been Seiji Ozawa, and he brought me close to Takemitsu. And Takemitsu, studying him, was reflecting directly a lot about the Japanese inside soul, because he was never a trained composer. He was a self-taught composer, but it was so strongly from the soul that his music was reflecting the Japanese culture in a way. And then when Stravinsky heard one of his pieces, the Requiem, then he was saying, probably Takemitsu is the most talented composer of our time, because it was so authentic. So coming back to the question and your answer, and maybe combining it. So in the end, when we talked about your cultures, your identities, in the end, there is let's say, Japanese soul inside of you, which actually reflects in your music making. This is your connection, right? If I understand.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Very much so. For my soul, definitely, my upbringing, my spirit character is definitely very much Japanese. It's probably a very samurai Japanese spirit that's wearing a tuxedo, you know.
Beautiful. No, I think it's very important also, and it's very beautiful, you know, because the arts give us all the space that we all have our place exactly at the same moment, exactly at the same time. When we conduct in front of the audience 2,000 people, it means we're conducting 2,000 different ways because each of the person in the hall will experience our conducting differently. So I think it's very beautiful. Now coming back to the situation now. So you have made this beautiful season. We know we are all in this crisis. We don't know what will happen. And there is a lot of discussions. What is your take on it? Is there, in, as we say, this big moment of crisis, a big chance to develop something special, especially for the classical music world?
Most definitely. I think there has been enough talk about the negativity of the current crisis. We all know it's bad. We all know it totally sucks for,
yes,
you know, it totally sucks for orchestra and for conductors. And that's the hard truth. And so we can complain about it, continue to complain about it, but it's not going to get us anywhere.
No.
So I like to deploy it in a positive spin, trying to figure out how creative we can be. So I'm going to just take, for example, the Savannah Philharmonic as an example, where as a music director there, how we can do something so innovative and creative that is attractive. And one of the problems, like with an orchestra like us, you know, every orchestra is probably going to stream online, most likely. And the moment that we do stream online, we are competing with the entire world. And I think the positive challenging thing about all of this is how can I make my programming so Savannah? Like that only our community can do, that no one else can do. That way, our main focus is not to get the entire world to watch us. I don't think, you know, that's not even realistic. But for our patrons that come to our concerts, it's about them. It's about getting those people excited that we are still providing music, classical music, to our community, even though the world is saying it's a crisis. Because as musicians, we can't really fix diseases, but we can uplift hearts and spirits, and we can make people smile, we can make people cry through our art. And if we don't do that, if we don't continue to do that, then we're not doing what we're not responsible musicians in this society. So yes, it's a crisis, but I'm feeling it as like a super positive challenge. And my artistic team, it's a team of two, literally, myself and my colleague EJ Lada. We probably have been so busy in the last few weeks just throwing ideas at each other and figuring out, you know, looking at what others are doing, understanding, learning, but like trying to put a twist to it and then seeing how we can make it our own and unique.
Beautiful. No, I think you're absolutely right. And this is how a music director has to react, in my opinion. It's not about whining, it's not about complaining, it's about how can we make the best out of this moment for our people, for our community. So I can only encourage you and say you do beautiful. I have one comment from somebody from Japan Arts, our both management, who says, unbiased attitude makes balanced people. So I think that it's really true that when we are a conductor, we only serve. But at the same time, we have to be aware of our own identity to give really an authentic interpretation. So to sum it up, it's beautiful, I think, altogether what you said. And really, we are for our audience and we are authentic and it's totally unbiased. We just serve in the best way we can. So I think it's beautiful. And then somebody asked, which Japanese composer do you like?
I haven't had a chance to conduct too many Japanese composers, but I had an opportunity to conduct a piece by Ito Takuma. He's a professor at University of Hawaii. He wrote a piece about music and droplets, which was just a la Debussy, and very beautiful, which we did the orchestra premiere in Tucson Symphony. And then one piece that's on my calendar is a piece by Dai Fujikura called The Ocean. And this is from one of his a segment of his opera, and the score is just unbelievably gorgeous. So those are two composers that for orchestral. Recently, it's not orchestral, but with a wind ensemble, I did a CD project of 8 composers world premiere that we recorded and premiered, and then 4 of the composers were Japanese, and just original compositions for this ensemble called the Siena Wind Orchestra. And this was really, really interesting for me to have propose this project so that I can meet the Japanese composers. Now I'm starting to work more in Japan, but I didn't do most of my music training in Japan, so I'm not friends with a lot of the Japanese composers. I just don't know many. So I'm starting to get introduced, and another one is like Yoshimatsu. Yoshimatsu is another great composer of Japan that I have much respect for, and I'm doing a CD project of his works in the coming 2-3 years.
Beautiful. Okay, yeah, we'll get there. I can't wait to hear it, also what you do. Now, let's get to some more light general questions. For example,
Please.
When you fly after a concert from the US to Japan, and you need to study and you want to work and everything, and then you have a child next to you which doesn't feel well and is screaming for 8 to 10 hours, and you arrive and you have to make a rehearsal right after. How are you dealing with it? Because I know for myself, the situation is really difficult and we have to concentrate and focus, but then we cannot do it. So what do? You go out and sleep immediately, at least if only 2 hours, and go to the rehearsal, or you have earplugs, or what do you do?
You know, I'll tell you this. So my wife Yuri and I, we don't have a child, but I would say that if I come back to home, wherever it be Japan or US, and if I just went to sleep because I need to get some rest, I'd probably just get killed, you know. So I really cherish the time the quality time that I spend with my wife, and she's not a musician, so it really helps me keep myself grounded and just allows me to have a much wider world view about everything that is not in our field of music. So it's a balance, but I have my routine. I'm a morning studying person. I wake up usually around 4 to study, and then I don't study at night because I enjoy my wine, I enjoy my vodka, and after that I can't get any notes inside my head. It's useless, right? So might as well just go to sleep.
A complete opposite from me. I'm not a morning person at all, but then in the evenings I can study until when you get up. I mean, if the combination of you and me would be put together, we would be studying from 4 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the night. It would be like amazing. You talked about food. Are you a food junkie? You love food?
I absolutely love food. My wife's mother is a chef, and she teaches Chinese cuisine online and is well known for her profession. And so I'm so spoiled. Usually, you know, Sascha, like you come to Japan, the food's amazing, right? And
Something
it's just unbelievable. And so when I'm visiting Japan and when we're at our home with our mom, I get so fat because I just cannot stop eating. And I love food. People who are my friends, they all know that I love food. And a lot of my Instagram posts is about food, and yes.
Do you have a special
what's your favorite? I was going to ask.
No, it's okay. Do you have a special food before the performances, or you like a food before Tchaikovsky, which is special, and one before Takamitsu, which is special, or is there no real preference?
Well, I'm going to throw this question back at you, but can you eat before you rehearse, or can you eat before a concert?
Very little. And you know, in Japan, I was known for a long time, and I don't know if Japan art is still there, but I know I was horrible because I had this instant soup. cup noodle soup was also in Kanagawa Field. If they are watching, was all the time I'm having this in between rehearsals. And then they told me, you know, it's not healthy. And I said, I know, but I love it so much. And also the banana. I had the mix of banana and cup noodle soup. I changed this now because it's really not healthy for a long time.
It really is not healthy. I think our president of Japan, our Junichi, is watching this live. I think I thought I saw his name earlier. But
welcome.
Well, you know, but the cup noodle is pretty good though. I will give it to you. It's unhealthy, but it's really good.
And I love it, but this is my problem. But now I got away from it because it's you know, when I came in Japan, they're writing Japanese. You know, when I come into the backstage room, they had like 5 different cup noodles in the end.
Of course,
but
of course.
Yeah, but now okay, I'm out of that. So, but now to you, back to you. You have a preference for the food before performances backstage?
I can't. I'm sure I can eat. I'm sure. But like psychologically, I can't eat.
Yeah, but when you conduct like a long piece, like Rosenkavalier is 5, you know, almost 4.5 hours altogether. You have to eat a little bit, otherwise your sugar level goes down in the brain. You cannot concentrate in the end. So a little bit you have to eat in between.
Yeah, I think like banana is my default salad.
You look.
Yeah. If there's like a sushi restaurant, this is so Japanese of me, but if there's a sushi restaurant, I get like a maki roll with salmon or cucumber. In Cincinnati, we used to do that all the time. Our music director Louis Langray and I would eat, you know, sushi right before the concerts and rehearsals. And so the staff got used to bringing us sushi before the concert.
Beautiful. I have a question about the situation, which is not only now, but everybody knows, of course, when we go on stage, we see a full hall. Wow, that's amazing. Our energies go up, right? We are totally in the performance moment. But hardly ever anybody talks about how is it actually when you go out in the hall and it's half empty. Because this is what will happen now in the future for a couple of months at least, because of the situation. But how do you feel when you go on stage and the hall is half empty? People never ask that question, but it's an important question because that is how we're starting. Also, when we are young, we not always have a full sold-out hall.
That's a really good question. Wow. I think my attitude, I can't remember, but I think my attitude used to be that I'm just going to do the best that I can on stage, and that the musicians, you know, really pour out the soul from the musician to perform the best that we can possibly do. And then hopefully that translates well to the audience, that they would want to bring more friends the next time. And I don't really feel, this is difficult to say, but is it a reflection of our artistry that there aren't people in the concert hall? Maybe, but maybe not. It might just be a bad day, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I once did a concert and then it was really empty, but the next door convention center, Lady Gaga was performing. And so like I would want to go to Lady Gaga. and there were so many musicians in that orchestra who took that service off because they wanted to go to see Lady Gaga. So like I don't blame them, you know. It's just it's all about poor choices. There are some things that you just can't control, and that's okay. Is it the organization's fault? Is it the music director's fault or the musician's fault? Yeah, yes and no. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just timing. C'est la vie, you know. You just can't really do much about it.
And to be honest, I mean, if I can go to Lady Gaga and to say hi to her, maybe, you know, we just bring her on stage to us. So
exactly.
It really has nothing to do with that. And we are just providing a service as a conductor altogether. So people have to be aware more and more, because in the interviews, it never comes out really. But it must be clear, you know, we are providing a service of the highest excellence possible for the orchestra, for the community, for the donors and all the board members. So must be clear. So let me just go back to this performance thing. Now as a conductor speaking, our instrument is the orchestra. So we basically have 3 levels. We have the string level, we have the wind level, then we have a percussion level. If we have choir soloists, add something, but from the basic point of view. What is your take on the most difficult things to deal with our instrument and to develop it that we can play it better? Because this is what we have to do, right? We have to rehearse with the orchestra for ourselves to get better in time. So what do you find the hardest for the instrument to be played on? Like a violinist can say, well, I have, you know, with the shiftings, it's the most hardest, or the right hand combination with the left hand. So talking about those layers, a little more specific maestro talk, so to say.
I think the biggest challenge for us from the conductor perspective is acoustics on stage. I think that changes the entire game for, you know, for example, maybe you rehearse in one place that you're comfortable with, and then you go to a concert hall that there is great acoustic, maybe too much acoustic, or no acoustic at all. So at the Generalprobe, you really hear what your biggest challenge is, right? And I always, you know, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question correctly, but like not technical stuff, but just how can I be super helpful for the musician is what I'm probably thinking the most in those rehearsal settings. If there is a typical passage that is difficult, just giving them the attention, but not forcing it upon them, but just gently letting them know that I'm there for you. I know this is hard. Let's do this together kind of attitude. But I think what I focus really on is the ear, like trying to channel in what it sounds like to be sitting in this concert hall as a triangle player or as a timpani player. How different is that distance from there to me, and how much the sound bounces off from the back wall and comes back. Like that difference is so crucial in order for us to put it together. Of course, our musicians are, you know, super talented and they have the skill, but we can't really just rely on that. We have to be them. We have to be the physical players playing that moment so that they know that we're with them. So that's, I think, one of my biggest focus when performing, so that it is a team effort.
Absolutely, I agree. From all these compositions we have as a conductor, from all the periods, when you had the chance to meet 3 of the composers to ask them specific questions, because the people also who are watching now, you have to know, all of you in front of your screens, that we conductors constantly ask ourselves, what did the composer mean by writing it in this way? This is our general question, you know, even with the most common pieces. So which composers would you love to meet, like the top 3, to ask them, how did you really mean that? You have something. Okay. This is the one, number 1.
One, if I were to choose 3, he would be one of the first person I would love to just talk to, because the use of the voice on top of this gigantic orchestration, but still being able to put together, you know, I just have so many questions on every single page that if I could just text him and WhatsApp him to answer,
God. Yeah,
you know, it's a constant challenge and a battle, just like with Puccini, because, and I'm so amazed, even though I've conducted a lot of his works, I just feel like every time I open his score, I'm so amazed by what he's able to do that I couldn't catch last time. So that's one person.
that's okay. You can open them all. It's fine, as you wish.
Yeah, I think the other one would be Mozart.
Why? Why Mozart?
I just want to spend a day with him.
Many people say that actually. They just want to observe him. Yeah.
I want to just drink with him. I just want to eat with him, and I just want to see him sit in front of a blank manuscript and just watch the muse come into him and just write. Like, how amazing. I'm so jealous of people who were able to spend time with Mozart, that people who were around Mozart. Who's your number one or number one, two composers?
Yeah, well, I think there are many questions I have to Gustav Mahler, which he so far could not answer in the music. But of course, we're learning with every composition we started, we learned something. So, but he would be number one, I think, at the moment. Yeah, definitely. And with Mozart, it's similar. Of course, you want to just observe him, but also ask him many questions. He's the base for so many things. But let's talk about the big picture. I mean, what is about history? What are the personalities in history which inspired you as a human being now talking, not as a conductor?
People who made significant changes, like to make life happier, for example, like Mother Teresa, and not just like those kinds of historical people, but also in the entertainment field, like people who like Audrey Hepburn, for example, or even people who are living now, Steven Spielberg, composers like John Williams. These are people who really had so much charisma and identity that were attractive and had a voice. Another one that I would have loved, that I really think was an important person in history, was Steve Jobs. Like, when you see how many people are using Mac and Apple products, but those companies that came offsprings of it, and how we all like are doing Instagram Live, Facebook, technology, these people changed the course of our history, course of our communication, and those I really would really like and really honor and really think about.
And for conductors from the past?
So many. I love Karajan. I love Kleiber, Bernstein, Stokowski. Definitely come to mind very quickly as one of those people. Toscanini also.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to sum up, we're coming slowly to an end, but to sum up this whole connection between, as we started, music director in the center of a community and being responsible basically for the well-being of a community. Do you think, as a conductor speaking, that you are representing a certain value of a community as well? Do you have a responsibility? You feel that?
Most definitely, because as a conductor, you have community citizens in a community who are craving for art and craving for classical music, jazz, pop, but music that they really want to hear live. And we live in a world that entertainment is so easy with a click on the computer. You could just listen to Spotify, you can watch concerts on streaming devices, but there is a strong percentage of people who want to experience music live. And then I think those people will naturally come, and then it is our responsibility. But most these days, what I really think our responsibility as conductor and arts leader in the community is to figure out ways to get the heart of those people who don't or who have not come to live concerts be interested in coming to a live concert. Those all generations really who are stuck at home watching TV as a normal routine. What is it that we can do through classical music and just music in general that is so attractive that they would want to come see us. And then that way we can actually change the community, to change the life of others. So I do feel such a huge responsibility being a conductor, a musician, in for our fans and for our not hope to be new fans.
Well, that's very beautiful. I'm so happy to see the next generation after me to think in that way, because I totally can only say that's beautiful, and please keep that for the rest of the life. Doesn't matter what experiences you will have, because sometimes it's difficult also to convince other people, which we need to make live music. But I think your attitude is beautiful, really beautiful. Now, there was one more specific question. I don't want to stop without asking. This was about, it was a Pietropa, and he asked, in the process of the auditions as a music director, what is your experience and how can you help sharing this experience to really connect in this like first date moment of conductor and orchestra?
This is in the process of audition?
Yes, that's what was written in the question.
So that's a very, very interesting one, and a very good question, actually. You might be able to help me on this, but I think as a conductor, we come into any organization with some sort of a concept of the sound that we like. And for me, the audition process is very, I like the process because I have my idea of what kinds of sound, color, style I like. However, with the American system of audition, I'm not the only one. And the beauty of the audition process is that we have a committee that is well represented from like the string section, the wind section, brass, the percussion section. So we have a collective mind of various people with various wide range of history in relationship to music that gets together and share our opinion. And that really helps because when it's the member of the orchestra that are coming into that process, they are the ones who actually physically make the sound. So they know what they like, but then you often get opinions of maybe this candidate has the sound that we're used to, but this candidate has something very different that is not our usual sound, but something that is very exciting. So which one do you choose? So I always think that process is just really great. But what's your take on this question?
Well, first of all, I would say, I saw our managers watching and they're very happy and proud of us. And now I want from our side to say to our managers, we are very proud of you too, especially in this period, and we love you too. And thank you so much for following us. And we are in this together. We're a big family. Just wanted to say thank you to our managements and managers watching tonight. Look, I think this is a general question about what is music about. It's a very big question. An audition process for a conductor, really you have to be able in first place to connect. Because if you cannot build a connection, either with the musicians as a whole team or individually, and not to the gremium or the group who will be actually judging you, then basically you cannot create that moment to move something. I think we're not responsible in first place to decide where we can move. If it's a feeling of joy, if it's a feeling of melancholy, if it's a feeling of sparkle. Because in that way, we have to understand that, for example, we have now a big crisis, the biggest crisis for the performing arts since World War II. So when we come out of this, the audience will need something different than before the crisis. The orchestras will sound differently than before the crisis because we are making an intuitive art. So we cannot really need this feel the need as an individual, what is really in that moment. But if we are able to connect the people to our vision in that moment, from the music point of view as well as from the vehicle of art, which is a value of humanity, we have really made the audition process successful, even if we are not selected. So to sum it up, I would definitely say, for all the conductors listening and watching, please focus on yourself, being able to connect to everybody who is around you. Because even you will not be selected, this is your job as a conductor. There is no ego involved. If there is an ego pattern in your conducting, ultimately you will fail. It's really, there is no place for ego. As a conductor in a symphonic orchestra, it's one pulse, one soul, one body of sound. So this is what I would, refer to that thought. Yeah.
No, it's very true. And, I went through so many audition processes in the past several years, and whether it be in the music director level or also in the, the staff conductor level. And it's always the chemistry, and you really feel it right at the beginning of your audition process. And for me, it's when the chemistry is right, the end result ends up being in favor. So,
yes, absolutely. So I think it's a beautiful ending of our interview, which I really enjoyed. It's all about chemistry, about energies, about visions. And I think you will have a wonderful time in Savannah. You will find with your team the way to give amazing live performances in whatever kind of structure we need to perform within the next month. But I'm sure you will do great. And I hope to see you very soon in person too, in Japan or in America or in Europe. But thank you so much for being with us this evening. And thank you also to all our viewers. Everybody's welcome. We are happy to have you with us, and wishing you a good night to Tokyo and a happy morning in America and a good afternoon in Europe. Thank you so much being with us, Kate. Thank you.
thank you for watching.
Thanks. Bye.